Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Valerie.
So I was
not
thinking.
New.
No, we've done this before. I was thinking because we had Krebs from Dungeon Crawlers last week with us, Tracy, and I thought this is going to go so much smoother now that Val's back in the intro, and it did not. But
Was it an awkward intro last week? I haven't listened yet because I've been out. But
it was fine. Krebs was great. It's just not the same.
Fantastic.
It's not you.
Right, like when you don't go through your intro every week. We're usually, if you're new to the show with Jake, Tracy, and Valerie, we tend to have awkward like beginnings and awkward endings, but the middle, the meat of the show.
It's like really, if the best thing you can say about a hamburger is that the bun was the best, like that's not a really good burger. But if the bun is subpar, but the meat is good, then
that's true.
Yeah.
But when they're both good.
Yeah, well, we're working on both.
We
are.
are
25% of our shows are the full package.
As Tracy said, we're a juicy beef patty. That's what we are right now, and we'll work
That's our band name.
on everything else.
That's
our band name. I like it.
Patty.
So, Val, where are you this week?
So I am in DC right now, doing working a con called Otakon, which is all Japanese like pop culture, music, anime, games. I went and played in their gaming section. It's huge. It's like this big area. Think of like half of what we use at the convention center in Salt Lake. It's like half of that is just set up games. And a lot of them are Japanese games. So it's like, well, here's your instructions, but I don't know. So you just kind of figure it out and have fun. But they have all different kinds of things. And there's concerts that are happening. There's different classes on like how to put costumes together. They were doing like a photography class yesterday, like really how to like photograph like the like characters and stuff like that. I didn't go to anything, but like I can, the schedule. But yeah, it's like they've been doing it for 4 years in DC. It started out in Baltimore, I guess. But yeah, they're a fun group of people, and yeah, it's really fun to see. I saw for the first time in all the cons that I've been to in the last 15 years, somebody arrived with service ducks.
Okay.
I will post a picture of these service ducks in a video. So I walked around the corner to the service area because they use our technology just to check in on them and see how they're doing. And she looked at me like the girl that was working there. She's like, I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, I need somebody from convention staff to come in here. And I'm like, well, what's going on? She's like, we have service ducks. And there's no animals allowed in the building. There's 2 service ducks that are also dressed up, and they're looking at each other like, I don't know what kind of conversation they're having with each other, but I want to know. Like, it's one of those things. Let me see if I can get it big enough. These are the service.
Oh my God.
Have wigs, and they're looking at each other and having some sort of conversation. But of course I had to take a photo because they're birds. And they're birds in costumes with wigs. And they look like they're so disinterested in the world around them. And they don't understand why these stupid humans, I'm not saying this human is stupid.
Right,
put them in costumes and are bringing them to this thing, right? But they're service ducks.
Okay.
And I'm pro service animal, whatever you need to do to be able to do your life. But I feel like service ducks in Japanese anime costumes are not really service ducks. I think they're entertaining ducks.
Yeah.
Okay, now if this happens in a movie, would all be like, that's really funny. That would never happen in real life. But this actually happened. This is fantastic.
The things that I see at conventions.
I'm genuinely curious what a service duck would support, like what it would do. And so
I could see like if you had outdoors and like keeping ducks or keeping birds or keeping like chickens, like they help you feel better, and there you go out into your yard and they bring you joy, but you're bringing them to an environment that they're going to get trampled.
Yeah.
Like this is a big convention hall. There's 30,000 people here. Wow. What are you going to do with these ducks?
The fact that
they don't have leashes, because who puts a leash on a duck? And I say that, and I'll probably get all these photos like, here, I've seen a leash on a duck.
Yeah,
but again,
in this case, that would be like the least weird thing the ducks were wearing if they were wearing a leash in this case.
Yeah. But I mean, service birds are a thing, but you just don't take them to stuff like this
convention.
Because I'm getting trampled at events like this, right? It's just busy and crazy. I saw somebody at San Diego Comic-Con last week had a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old was done walking, laid on the floor, and the mom was just dragging him by his foot on this dirty floor at San Diego Comic-Con. She was a vendor.
Oh no.
Yeah. Was it like toward the end of the day, end of the convention, just middle? I mean, 3-year-olds, they're going to be done when they're done. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right, but we're all looking like they're on the floor. Like maybe you're building their immune system. Good for you, you know.
Yeah.
But then she kept on. She'd like get him up, and he'd walk, and then he'd sit down again. And all of these people are walking by, and she's just over here, like, come on, no, pick your kid up. Sorry, this is a whole different podcast. Pick your kid up.
Yeah,
I don't know who's calling me.
I've got nothing to follow this. This is the whole show. This is
when you're if only George Washington was pulling Hamilton by his ankles across.
Well, there were a couple times he needed to. It's appropriate that you're in Washington D.C. We're wrapping up July with a patriotic movie / musical. We're going to talk about Hamilton. So that's how we're going to do it, Tracy. No clever segue. We're just going to go right into it.
I don't know how you segue from what Val just described into Hamilton, but
I mean, they fought for the freedom for us to throw a tantrum, and we do it, America. We throw some of the best tantrums in the world.
To put wigs on ducks.
They did.
Yeah. I mean, if it was up to the British, we'd be putting wigs on everything.
This is true.
Speaking though of costumes and things wearing strange costumes, Tracy is raising money to. If he where are you at on this? He's going to run in Disney World, right, as Disney a princess.
World. Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to be the 5K, but I set a goal because fundraising been a little tougher this year, and there's a lot going on. And so, to try and stand out a little bit from the crowd, I asked people if they would donate a certain amount of money that I would become a pretty princess. And the people responded. So I will be doing the 5K at Walt Disney World as it appears Rapunzel. It was a close between Rapunzel and Princess Leia. But I think Rapunzel is going to be the winner.
I feel like somehow that's a backhanded, I don't know, comment or something that they went with the princess with the most hair for you, Tracy.
I did get several comments.
I got some wigs.
I've got some pretty hair that I need to get. Yeah. But I'm looking into some plus sized running apparel because I am not a petite man. And this is going to be fun. So raising money for American Cancer Society. And I just want to say, you guys, it's so important. Just even $5. I mean, the stuff that ACS does for people, you guys are on the groups, you see people posting about family members, about how they're going through it. Our friend of the program, Eileen Dobbin, she was on the show once. Her sister just passed away from cancer. This week, I found out 2 friends whose dads are fighting prostate and colon cancer. It's just anything you can do. $5, $10. Help us reach our goal. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff coming up. We've got some fundraisers coming up. So it's not just like give us money, but and it doesn't go to us. It goes 100% goes to ACS. We're covering all of our expenses I'm going out to Walt Disney World and then out to Disneyland. You guys are joining me out in Anaheim. So, $5.
Tracy's running the Dopey Challenge in Disney World the weekend before he runs with us
because
in
I get
Disneyland.
a medal if I do both, and I'm such a sucker.
So by the end of our weekend in Disneyland, I'm pretty sure Val and I are going to be dragging Tracy out by his ankle.
I got to
By
figure
his
out.
ankle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something special that happens to Tracy at Disneyland, kind of like me, where you will the energy to get through it because of the magic. And I'm hoping that's going to happen with the running, because I have not been training in the running, but I have to tell you that I can speed walk my butt off. So even if I don't run the whole way, I did like 9 blocks in San Diego Comic-Con in 11 minutes.
That's impressive.
Like I just went, and everybody on that was with me, they're like, "Why are you walking so fast?" I'm like, 1, I want to eat these tacos that we just bought. 2, I'm really tired. And 3, I'm training for a 10K. And they're like, "Sure you are, Val. Sure you are."
No, you are doing it. We're all doing it. This is going to be great.
We are all doing it. We are.
The 2 weekends, I'm looking at 67.9 miles, not including park time.
We're gonna have to.
All right,
Tracy.
Hey, really quick though.
Did you say you're gonna be drugged or dragged? Okay, I was gonna say what.
Yeah,
gonna be drugged.
We're all gonna be on ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Yes. KT tape, ibuprofen, and ice packs. Yes. Real quick though, I got to tell you, I got a chance to screen the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this morning. And that is the first time that I have been at a children's screening where the kids broke out into applause at the end. Like all clapping and cheering. And then at the end, they have a teaser for the next movie, and the kids are like, "Who is that?" And they were just totally into it. It's a hit. It's a really, really good little movie.
I'm excited. It looks really cool. I think the animation style looks really cool. And I feel like they got the tone of the Turtles right.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is I read that they recorded all of the Turtle kids because they're basically teenagers. They recorded them all live at the same time. They didn't have separate vocal tracks and separate booths, so the kids are playing off of each other and talking over each other. It's really good. Paul Rudd is hysterical as always. The animation style. Sometimes it looks like claymation, but it looks like hand-drawn animation mixed with some killer computer animation. And Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the soundtrack, which I did not know until I saw that in the credits. I'm like, whoa.
That's cool. So I'm excited to go see it. I'm a big Ninja Turtles fan. That was my jam back in the day. So
been a Turtles fan?
I've tried to get them into it, and I appreciate the patience that my kids have with me when I try to get them into something that like I was into as a kid, or I want to share the experience with them. Because if they don't latch onto it, they're kind of just like, "Oh, that's really neat, Dad. Would you want to go see that movie?" I mean, I guess, but that's neat. Like, I'm glad you like it, Dad. That's kind of his attitude toward it. So, like, okay,
all right,
great. So now I'm just going to go as a 41-year-old man by myself to go see it. So I don't think I'll be the only one.
No, it was a very much a kickback to my childhood. I remember being so excited when the Henson company was working on the original Turtles, and there's a couple of really clever little throwbacks to those original movies. So I think you'll enjoy the heck out of it.
And I'm glad to hear it. I'm happy to hear that. I was hoping it would be good. So
yeah.
There will be a review written by Tracy up on our website.
Yep.
As soon as he can write it, because of course I don't even think he should have told you there was an end credit.
I didn't say what it was. I'm telling you, stay through the credits because you might miss something. But I didn't spoil it.
Tracy.
Wow, that was for those.
for those that are interested in donating to the American Cancer Society for us, we do have to reach our midway point by the end of August, by August 23rd, I think. So we're
Yes.
getting closer to
My
that. So we will
birthday. So
post.
as a birthday present to me, donate
Yes.
$5.
Yep. So we will post that link so that you can donate, help us get to the midway point of our goal, and then we're going to have some fun activities to get the rest of the way there. So
Absolutely.
we are excited for it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a blast.
So, well, good. Let's jump into Hamilton, starring Lin-Manuel Miranda. I love movies, by the way, or plays or musicals where the person who created the whole thing says, you know, who'd be really good in this leading role?
This guy.
Me. And
But you know the story behind it, right?
tell
Like,
us.
do you know the story? So,
I don't know.
Like, okay, so Lynn, he was a teacher, but he really has been an actor and that forever, and was just auditioning. He was teaching, and then he's like, there just aren't any good parts out there, for people that look like me. In musicals, like it's very much looks like the same leading man kind of material. He took a hiatus and a vacation from teaching, and he went off on vacation and read this big, huge, if you've seen the book about Hamilton, it's huge. It's like
big,
a monster,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he read it and he thought to himself, I'm going to write this, and I'm going to write it in a way that people like me, because it is about immigrants, can be in this cast. So he wrote it with himself and his like-minded individuals in his community to be able to be in it. So I think it's one of those things that we all kind of do. Like, if the door you want to go through doesn't open for you, you create your own door.
Right.
And he knows that he's not the best singer on the stage. Like, he knows this, right?
Yeah.
So the music that he wrote with certain people in mind, and his songs are not strong,
His songs
vocal
aren't nearly
songs.
as dynamic. Yeah.
And he mixed in a lot of different genres. You have hip hop, you have a little bit of rock and roll in there. You've got rap, you've got, pop, you've got regular kind of Broadway like feeling stuff. And it's really cool. It was kind of a big hit, a little bit like Rent. So when Rent came out, it was this kind of new feel, new vibe, this capturing this generation in this time in history. But it kind of brought younger audiences to the theater, right?
Right.
And Hamilton became a hit, and it was so smart that they took the original cast and they recorded it on stage. To me, I thought that was brilliant, because it's either going to do really, really well or people are going to hate it. So I thought that took some, to do that.
And I love that they did that, because a lot of times when they try to make it more into a movie, like you've got your Les Miserables and those kind of films,
Dear Evan Hansen,
it doesn't hit the same way that this does, I feel like, on film. For me, I really enjoyed the way that they brought it to film.
There's a lot of time jumps in this too in a short amount of time, and so I think that would be really hard to do more of a more of a cinematic view than presenting it on the stage. And it's cool too, because like they'll tape like all the major Broadway shows. Oftentimes they'll record them and then they'll have them in like the archives, the Broadway archives, but they don't necessarily get released to the public. And to be able to see all the original cast, I know that Jonathan Groff, the guy that plays the king, he had actually stepped away from the company, and they had somebody else playing him, but he came back for the recording because they wanted the original group of people to do it. And so I think that's really cool, because not everybody gets a chance to get out to Broadway, because when this starts, this is like a no-name play, and people kind of mocked it at first. There was a lot of public, they made a hip hop musical about a founding father. What this sounds awful. And then word of mouth grew.
Even Barack Obama thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
He did like this tester. There's a video that you'll have to check out on YouTube, and maybe we can share a link to it on our YouTube. But he's invited to the White House, And he's like, and Barack Obama's like, well, so what's your new thing? Like, what's your new thing? What are you doing? And he's like, I've just kind of been working on this thing about Hamilton. He's like, oh. And then he starts like rapping, and everybody thinks it's like a joke at first. And then it turns into this amazing thing.
And everybody's like, oh, this works.
Yeah.
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 And
like, people are going to laugh in your face, but if you believe in yourself, like, do it.
Yeah. And I think at the time he had only written like 2 or 3 of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many songs in this show.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's like one of the most downloaded soundtracks.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and then
when it came out, it was everywhere, and we were playing it on mainstream, stations. When I go into this very small pet store by my house to pick up my little dog, some like my dog bones for my dogs, and every time this one lady is working, Hamilton soundtrack is always on. Like every month I go in there, if she's working, the Hamilton soundtrack is on. But what I think was the coolest and smartest thing was when Disney Plus decided to release it on Disney Plus during the pandemic, because that show alone brought them some of like the biggest subscriptions to Disney Plus. And then during the pandemic, I just watched it almost every day.
So now this is, I've been honest about this before. Rap and hip hop is not my cup of tea. It's not my genre. And I have a hard time when it is so fast. So I have to watch it with subtitles on, but it's fascinating and it works. Like I enjoy this. Like I didn't know if I would. I enjoy the heck out of it, but it goes by so fast at times. I'm like, I've got to have the subtitles on because I miss some of the stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm old.
And this is one of those musicals where it is pretty much a song from start to finish. There's not a lot of just speaking in it. It is songs from start to finish. And so I get it. Like we always have the subtitles on anyway, but it definitely helps with some of the stuff because when David Diggs goes fast, he goes fast, man. It's pretty impressive.
Like, I don't know how you move your mouth that fast. It makes sense.
Yeah, I loved it because as he's going through all these different hip hop variations, I could pick out, okay, that's Busta. Okay, that's Redman. Okay, that's like you can like hear the styles. If you're like hip hop and rap are very much my music genre that I love, and like jazz music, which you get a lot of that with Odom Jr.'s,
Did we lose her?
She froze a little bit. We'll see if she comes back. Hotel Wi-Fi can be spotty.
It can be a little tricky.
I mean,
she was just getting into it, and I'm excited because she's the one that can break this all down.
The sets are very much pop.
Oh, thought we had her.
Yeah.
But you and we can't break down Redman out of the
Redman. Not Redman. Redman. Tracy.
That's what I meant. Again, I'm old.
Well, but that's what's been so surprising about Hamilton and how popular it has been is, and we talked about how this was, word of mouth, and everybody kind of thought it was going to sound weird and everything else, and it's really caught on. But it has gone across generations, like generational divides, political divides, like all sorts of things, and has really kind of appealed to such a broad audience, despite the fact that when you hear the premise for it being, and we'll hope Val joins us here in a minute again, but when you hear the premise of it being, hey, we're going to take and we're going to cast it the way that we're going to cast it. We're going to tell the story in hip hop. We're going to tell it in modern music styles. And things like that. It sounds like something that isn't going to work.
Well, and
but because
if they were doing like Washington or Lincoln, then you're like, oh, that's but it's like the guy who invented the Treasury, like, there is such a fascinating story, but we didn't know that story necessarily.
Yeah. All I knew about Hamilton, I mean, I knew more than just this, but like the most famous Hamilton reference in pop culture pre this musical was the Got Milk commercial with the guy who's calling in about who shot Alexander Hamilton, and he's got the peanut butter and he can't say Aaron Burr. Like, I knew Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton because of that commercial. I mean, I learned about it in school too, but that was where I first learned that. And so to see this kind of take off as it has, and how fascinating the story is, because it really is the story of someone who came from nothing and no background and was able to really build something and was really instrumental in the US becoming the US, and
Right.
not just in fighting the war, but after. And there's so many great references in this film about that, like when George Washington in one of the songs says, winning is easy, but governing is harder, right? And things like that. It's just it's just really well done. Val, we tried to carry on without you. It wasn't as good. I can
Whatever,
tell you
you're
that
having
right
a
now.
total conversation.
I said Redman instead of Redman.
Yeah,
So.
Tracy's like, well, I can't break this down and talk about Redman and stuff. I said, it's Redman, Tracy, not Redman.
Man, Method Man.
Yeah.
Busta. No, it was just, I really liked the different types of music and styles that went together, and it didn't feel like it was too much. I think everybody loves the soundtrack that has heard it, and everybody has like their one favorite song. Do you guys have your favorite Hamilton song?
I do absolutely have my favorite.
What is it?
In fact, we listened to the soundtrack quite a few times on our road trip that we recently took. And every time the song that George Washington sings, Teach Them How to Say Goodbye, or One Last Time, I like tear up. And my wife, the first time, she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "It's just this song. I can't." George Washington is such a huge figure in American history, and to see the way that they portray him in this, where he has all the power, he has all the prestige, and knowing I'm building something that's bigger than me, I want this to outlive who I am and my lifetime, and to do that, I have to step away and believe that I've built something strong enough that it will continue after I'm gone. And it's just really powerful as a leader. I think he's one of the greatest leaders in history. And anyway, love that song. Gets me every time. It's funny at the beginning too, when Hamilton doesn't know what's going on yet.
Yeah.
Wait, what? You're what? You're doing what?
You're what?
What about you, Tracy?
I love Satisfied. And the vocals that she gives, especially when they do like the reverse time thing, is just so cool. And I'm also a sucker for anything when King George shows up. He just delights me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll talk about him, and we'll really get in. I have a lot of stuff to say about him. Like, so fun. Like, what a fun character. Yeah. Mine, I mean, I've got to be with Leslie Odom Jr. Like, when he is, I think he's, for me, like the first time I saw it, he stole the show for me. Like, he just stuck out to me, and I hadn't really seen him in anything before because he'd mainly done Broadway, and he has his own music, which if you haven't downloaded it, download it because it's amazing. But Wait For It is a song I can just listen to over and over and over. And the way that they shoot that scene, and they leave it all up to him, because almost the whole production, you've got people coming and going and dancing, and Wait For It is, he has to carry like almost that whole song by himself, but he can, because his vocals are just crazy.
Yeah, he is. He's incredibly talented, and that song, I agree, is an incredibly powerful song in the movie.
I also love, I think one that I probably quote the most, that I thought was really fun to watch and still fun to listen to, is In the Room, or Not in the Room. What is it called?
In the Room Where It Happened.
Yeah, In the Room Where It Happened. And every once in a while I'll say this to somebody, but were you in the room? The room where it happened? How do you know? Were you in the room where it happened? How do you even know?
I love, since we're talking about Aaron Burr, and I love the juxtaposition between these two individuals and how different they were, and they both were kind of to the extreme of their differences, right? I love when he first meets Aaron Burr, and he's like, can I offer you some advice? Talk, or smile more, talk less. And he's like, wait, don't let him know what you stand for, or what you're against. And that was kind of, you see that throughout the whole story, that's what he does. He doesn't take a stance one side or the other, and that ends up being the reason why Alexander Hamilton doesn't vote for him for president, because he says, I may not agree with Thomas Jefferson, but he stands for something. I don't know what Aaron Burr stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And but then Alexander Hamilton's the other extreme, where he is so ingrained in what he believes. Yeah, he doesn't stop. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the middle.
Both qualities can be really good, like knowing when to push and to fight, but then also, like Burr, knowing when maybe your mouth isn't going to be able to check that or cash that check,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What is that? Is that movie? Can your butt cash the check your mouth? Whatever. I don't know. There's butts and mouths and cashing checks. I don't know.
Your mouth's writing checks your body can't cash or something like that.
Fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is.
But yeah, I mean, it was able to take, because obviously there's a lot more to these stories, right? But he picked things, and he didn't make his leading character be unflawed, which is what I really like, because there's a lot of movies out there. I love historical fiction. I love just nonfiction in general when it comes to like documentaries, biographies, and that kind of stuff. But what I don't love about certain ones, and there's one in the theater right now that's doing very well at the box office, but they take the person that they're doing the documentary about and they make them an all-out superhero, which you're not telling both sides of the story. You are telling one side of the story. And with history, if you're doing a biography, a biopic, something based on history, you need to go both sides. And so what I thought Miranda did really well here is he showed that each one of these characters, they all had some good goals in mind, but they all had different ways in going about it. They all had some good qualities, and they all had some majorly bad qualities.
And I love that, because so often we tend to like idolize all of the founding fathers, and we go, these were perfect individuals who did absolutely the right thing every single time. And it's like, no, these guys were flawed, and they were doing the best they could under very difficult circumstances.
The only ones that you really don't see any of their flaws, George Washington. In this, you don't see any flaws there. And then Hamilton's wife,
Eliza
is pretty, like, you don't see a lot of flaws with her either, which I'm fine with, because she put up with a lot of crap from him, so it's okay. And she was amazing. Like, to hear her story at the end of the things she accomplished after what she had been through, like, she was pretty amazing. So I'm okay with that as well. But Hamilton, the main protagonist, you get his flaws, and that's okay. And that's something that we are getting better at as we talk about history, but we're getting a lot of pushback on it as well. That you've got to look at these characters from history as they were people, they were flawed, they made mistakes. And it seems like when we bring that up, it becomes you're bashing these people from history, and that's not the case. I look at it and I think, knowing that there were imperfections, knowing that there were flaws, and they still accomplished the things that they did, means that me, a flawed individual, can still accomplish, like, getting out of bed in the morning and going to work. Like, it's okay that they were flawed and not perfect. So,
well, and I love, like, Jefferson, that introduction of that character, that song "What I Miss" sums that character up for the whole second half so well. And again, we don't think of, when we think of Thomas Jefferson, we don't think of this guy who skipped the war and went to Paris, and who was a womanizer and a slave owner and kind of a
womanizer with his slaves.
And I love, oh my gosh, like when David Diggs, because they all play a couple different roles in this, which I think is super fun. And when he comes in, and he's on the stairs and he comes in, he's like, what I miss? Like, I've been doing this and that and this, and everybody's plotting, and he's like doing all of his stuff and comes down the stairs. And again, like, great stage production, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but he is so good at that. And I love how also, like, the characters, the actors that they picked for each one also kind of like held the stature of the original, right? They may not look
Mhm.
exactly like, but they held that stature, and he did. You know, he was that kind of tall, gangly, but kind of bigger guy, you know, and then you've got this little Alexander Hamilton, and they're just these opposites, you know, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
but he did such a
Well,
great job.
and it's cool too, because like I know, I feel like I know history pretty well, but like I didn't know that he was from the Caribbean. I
Mhm.
just assumed
Yeah.
that he was
Yeah.
from England, and so it's stuff like that that's so
Mhm.
interesting as
Yeah.
we go.
Well, and I
Yeah.
like anytime you have a story about history, you know it's successful when the minute you're done watching the movie, you leave the theater and you start Googling
Yeah.
to know more. And I'm watching it on, you know, Disney Plus at my house, and I just immediately like, oh, didn't know that. And like all the women in the story, like you said, learning the history of, like, there are so many things in New York named after both of these sisters because of what
Mhm.
they did. These were some very powerful, smart, you know, they were entrepreneurs. They're also, you know, philanthropists. Like, yeah, they had daddy's money, but they did something
Good
with
things
it.
with it. And at the time, for women to be able to achieve those kind of things
Yeah.
was, even with money, was difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I like you touched on, you know, they may not look like these figures from history, and we talked about the casting and how they did the casting, and what I love about the message that that sends, in my opinion, is that the history of the United States, it doesn't belong to one group of people. It belongs
Yes.
to everybody, and it needs to belong to everybody. This is inspiring, and Val, while we were waiting for you to come back and basically stalling, we talked about how this has reached such a broad audience across political lines and across ideologies and
Generational.
everything else, generational, all of that kind of stuff. And I think it's because this story of, I mean, this is the American dream that we talk about, right? Coming as an immigrant and building a life and finding opportunity and rising up the ranks. Like, that story is so universal and so powerful. It doesn't belong to one group of people. And I love that that's the message that I get out of it as well when I
Mhm.
watch these performers.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
beautifully said, Jake. Well done.
Yeah. And we gotta get to the king. Like the way
Yes, we
that
have to talk about King George.
this is a part that's not on stage very often. He opens the show like with his little you know, announcement at the beginning, but when his
Mhm.
first entrance comes on,
Oh my gosh.
oh my, and I just want to say, like, if you ever attended his shows in person and you were in the first 5 rows, you were spit on. Like,
It's
he's
like
very
Blue Man
juicy.
Group. Blue Man Group. You need the plastic
Yeah.
if you're in the
They
first
give
5
you a
rows.
poncho.
There's
They're
watch
like, you're
them.
in the spit zone, the saliva zone.
And they
And
make
some of
jokes
some
about
of
it.
those
He makes jokes
close-ups
about
where
it.
it's just coming. I'm like, wow.
Well, it's that accent that he's gotten down so well, because it's not
Yeah.
just an English accent, it's a royal accent, and the
Right.
way he, you know, enunciates all the T's and he hits, and it's, but he is so good in this. I
The
mean,
little shoulder shimmy kills me every time.
And just
well,
the way that he does those like side looks and waits, and
yeah,
then like comes.
and like when he says something about being blue and he does the sad face and like the lighting change, and like there's just so much, all the little things that he does that makes it so memorable, and so funny.
Well, and it's funny too, because I heard, and I might be wrong, but if I'm remembering correctly, he was supposed to move a lot more, but that costume and that
It's
robe
heavy.
was so heavy that he couldn't really do much. And so then they just developed that into the character where he's just slowly, barely moving his feet, you know, just kind of strutting out like, I totally own all of this. And that wasn't the original plan, but it's just the costume and the character, and it worked.
Yeah, it totally worked.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have like so many people. Let's just go through like the cast really quick, because like what's great about this is that when most of us saw it, unless you really were into, you know, like I've walked down Broadway, but I've never been to a Broadway show, right?
I saw
Mhm.
Rock of Ages and Harvey with the guy that played Sheldon on Big Bang Theory.
Nice. Yeah, and I've seen like when they travel, but I've never like seen an original cast of a
I
show
haven't seen an original cast. Yeah.
On Broadway. And when this came out, I think some of the names were known, but we have Lin-Manuel Miranda, who was just like so hot. Like this was he was just exploding. And then after this happened, he was everywhere. And then Philippa So, who
She's amazing.
He's amazing. Leslie Odom Jr. now has been in like 4 movies. He's got at least 3 albums out. David Diggs has been in animated movies, live action movies, and then Jonathan Groff, who plays the king, has been in a couple of things. But even Christopher Jackson, who plays Washington, he's in the new Sex and the City series. And the only one of the only reasons I watch it is for him and his wife. Their characters like keep me. And every time I see him, I just think, I'm like, you still just look presidential. Like there's just something, but he's funny in the show as well. So that was really weird to see at first. Like he is kind of this comedian, he's got this comedy to him, but he just has this presence about him.
Yeah.
That's so great. But almost everybody on this show,
Anthony Ramos.
Anthony Ramos was just in Transformers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the big Transformers movie that just came out.
Blue Beetle movie,
in which one?
Oh no, I was thinking he's in Blue Beetle too, but he's not. No, never mind.
No, but he was also in The Heights. That was another musical. But it was more of a I can't think of the word now, but they did it as a movie. It wasn't just
it's more cinematic.
Yeah, and then Renee, who plays the sister, is in She-Hulk. She's the attorney, and the attorney is one of my favorite characters in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
She was also in the Rent version that was filmed live on TV, so she's no stranger to that. But I mean, as I was watching the Hulk, I'm like, how do I know this person? And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's Hamilton. Yeah.
I did not.
So many good people. Yep. So many good people.
And as good as Hamilton is, I'm still not going to excuse Lin-Manuel for Scuttlebutt. I'm sorry. That is a
listen. We just talked about how they don't have to be perfect people. People are flawed, Tracy.
And that's David. He could have said no.
This is true.
But he didn't.
Yeah. Somebody should have said no.
I didn't realize that David is also in Soul.
I didn't know that.
And he is in Zootopia as well. So he's done a lot of
nice
animated. But
he's on a really bad.
I didn't like
Snowpiercer.
Yeah, I didn't like Miranda's song that he did in Mary Poppins 2 either.
Yeah,
like that was my least favorite song.
Yeah.
So I think he's like either he hits for me or he misses, but he always tries, and that's what I love. Like
and you can tell that it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a very distinct style, and I think that's when I think it works well when it is all his stuff in a film or in a story.
Yeah.
But when he's adding to, it doesn't hit as well typically.
Yeah.
For me. That's kind of the pattern that I've noticed. Like Moana, I love Moana. I love all the songs in Moana. Like I have no complaints. Even Shiny doesn't bother me at all in Moana.
Shiny is my favorite song, so it better not bother you.
It doesn't. But Scuttlebutt in Little Mermaid totally just didn't fit for me.
It was like I forget about it until you bring it up again. Like it doesn't bother me that much. But
Tracy doesn't forget.
I'm gonna get hate mail on this, but I'm sure he reminds me a little bit of like Taika Waititi. When Taika Waititi has a full-on project that is his, I love it. Sometimes when he just contributes, I don't always love it. I don't hate it, but I don't, always love it as much as when I get to see something that was totally his brainchild,
I will give him credit though, because that last song of Act 1, where he's bringing in snippets, and then too, when Hamilton gets shot, he brings in these snippets and pieces of all the songs.
He does the callbacks
together. That's incredible. And I wish I knew more about music theory so I could really appreciate, like I know a little bit. I did some band back in high school and stuff like that, but nowhere near as to, I'm sure somebody like who's got more of an education could do, but just the blending of all those styles and lyrics and it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, I mean, I'm surprised it took us so long to even talk about this movie because we all really, really enjoy it. And I think, again, I'm sure there's people out there that think Hamilton is stupid and they don't love it and they think it's like totally against like history or whatever. But I haven't heard from those people. And that's not a challenge either.
No, like we don't need to hear from you either.
Hamilton about, even people that you wouldn't think just by looking at them would like something like Hamilton. They're like, no, blah, blah, blah. I love this part of it, this or that. And it's just fun conversations to have with people.
Did you guys ever see the series Billy on the Street?
Yes.
Billy Eichner?
Yeah, I can watch it for a few minutes. I can only take so much of Billy.
So Billy Eichner is a comedian writer, and he would, before he was well known, he would just be on the streets like interviewing people and just being like real quick vignettes and stuff. But there's one episode where he's got Lin-Manuel Miranda with him, and he just runs down the street and he's like, miss, and like interrupting these people's days, these New Yorker days. And at first they're really upset, and then they look up and see it's Lin-Manuel Miranda, and they're like, oh my gosh, I love you. And he's like so super nice. He's like, I love you too. And he's like taking photos with them and stuff. It's great. He seems like a really cool dude.
Yeah, he does. And I like that he's done a lot. And like you said, Val, he always brings his best effort. It's just, it doesn't always hit for me, and it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm sad that not more people liked In the Heights, because
that was really good.
They were expecting something like Hamilton, but Hamilton and a recording on stage of Hamilton is going to be very different than taking that theatrical piece on stage and then putting it. And I thought they did such a great job with the choreography and the camera angles and just the trying to make you feel like you were in the musical. Of In the Heights was really, really fun to watch. And it just was kind of a sleeper, I think it made a little more than its money back, but it just wasn't, it wasn't Hamilton for them, for the fans.
And it's hard because when you've got it's almost like, because In the Heights was first, and then
it's the first one he wrote. Yeah.
Right. And so it's almost like, it's like the second album that hits big, and then you go back and listen to the first album of the band. You're like, okay, I can see how you got to the second album, but it just didn't.
Well, and I think you hit on it, Val, when you said it's not Hamilton. Like, you have to decide what you enjoy about Hamilton. So I enjoy the story of Hamilton. I also enjoy the music, and I think it all blends really well together. But like, if you more enjoy the story and the music is okay, but you just really like the story that's being told, and then you go see In the Heights, it's a very different story. It's and so you may not enjoy In the Heights. But if you like the whole thing, then I think In the Heights is still pretty solid. And it's got some catchy stuff to it. And I liked In the Heights quite a bit. We went and saw that. That was one of the first post-COVID movies that we went and saw in the theater was In the Heights. Yeah. And I loved it.
Yeah, I just really like, I love Lynn's and I feel like I can call him Lynn because I've never met him in my life, but
we've got
he just has, it's a mouthful of a name that is not always easy to say for me. Lin-Manuel Miranda. What I like is that you can see that he has a point of view from the music to the writing to the production, and not everyone that writes theater or writes musicals has anything to do with the choreography or anything to do with the production of the stage. They're a writer, they sell it, somebody else directs it, or they write and direct, but then they bring in, all these other people to he has his hands in everything. Yes, he hires people to do the choreography. Yes, he, has a production team and stuff like that, but he's
got some vision.
He wants things moving so that your eye is constantly following something. And he did that, with a very creative stage production for Hamilton, because it's not a big stage. So you do have to be creative on Broadway and in musicals, and you're moving sets and pieces and things to create all these different spaces. But then when you have a film like In the Heights, where he has all of these tools, right? So he can be that. One of my favorite scenes is when they're dancing down the side of the wall, right? And that's not like,
Mhm.
you can't do that. And I'm like, well, he tried to do it in Mary Poppins, you know, where you expect it, but it didn't work out for me. But it was so much fun. And then all the dancing in the pool. And then when they're out in the street, which was a very big callback to, you know, a lot of the old, back in the day, like
West Side
musicals,
Story.
you know, West Side Story, but
Mhm.
like times 10, you
Right.
know. It is coming down out here. I walked from the convention center to my hotel, 90 degrees plus humidity, and now it's literally gray and storming out my window. And that's why the light keeps going weird, because I had natural light,
Yeah.
and now I just have my lamp.
You had a
Funny.
nice natural light at the beginning. Not that you don't look nice
It's
now,
gone.
but it is.
It's funny though, Tracy, when you talk about, and Val, when you guys are talking about the vision that he has, and then he can even do that, like Tick Tick Boom. That was his
Oh,
first directorial
Yeah.
debut, and that came together really well. And that wasn't his original work, but he directed the movie, and
I loved that movie. I thought that movie was
yeah,
fantastic.
And that has such a great story. We should talk about that movie at some point, because the behind, like, just the behind story of how Tick Tick Boom came to be, and the story of the writer director, and like the original, like that is very much, you
And
know, Lin-Manuel did that because he was very much inspired, and this was a mentor for him.
Yeah, he's the guy who did Rent.
Yeah.
But if you watch Andrew Garfield's performance on some of those songs, and then you watch the original guy, he looks and sounds almost exactly like that.
Andrew Garfield was amazing in that.
Yeah.
Insanely good.
Well, maybe we just need to do a month of musicals and just do it. I mean,
Val's got the jazz hands.
But not the bad jazz hands.
Can we
The
do
Broadway
Xanadu?
jazz
no,
hands.
the good jazz hands, yeah.
Broadway
Xanadu?
jazz hands.
So
Olivia Newton-John roller skating as a Greek god. That was probably my first musical that I ever saw, because my sisters liked that movie.
Xanadu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Gene Kelly, which I did not know until like 5 years ago. I'm like, whoa, that's Gene Kelly. Holy crap.
I used to think I hated musicals, and I still sometimes will say that I do, but it's because the musicals that I grew up on were like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, The Music
That's
Man,
Sammy's favorite musical.
and people love them, and I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't your
for
brand
me
of
as
musical.
a kid, they were like old, and I thought that's what musicals were. And then as I've gotten older and I've seen more, I think there's a great genre of film that we could get into with.
We should
with
definitely
musicals.
try and have Rachel on for at least one of them. Our friend
Oh,
Rachel,
that would
who's
be
a
great.
film reviewer, but she's also reviews theater and musicals, and she sees, she like takes trips to New York every year to go see Broadway, and then she sees almost like she goes to all the theater productions in Utah. I don't know how she has all the time to see all the movies we have to see, and then see all the theater. Like it's really cool. So we should definitely have her on for one of the shows if she wants to be.
Absolutely.
It'd be awkward, Rachel, if you didn't want to be, and I just said something.
Yeah, now that we've talked you up. Come on, Rachel,
Well,
step up.
So we should probably transition from our business planning meeting and move into
break out into song.
The grade for Hamilton.
Hey, we did not take our full 15 minutes of talking about nothing today. We talked about those ducks in 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then a little.
We also talked about Tracy running as a princess, and
that's not a rant. That is business that we have to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And I can't wait. I really do want to talk Barbie with you guys, because I thought that was an outstanding film.
I still haven't seen it, but I'm gonna. I've been trying. When it came out, I was at San Diego Comic-Con. There was no way I was getting in a theater the weekend it opened during San Diego Comic-Con.
No. But that's one that. And then Haunted Mansion is out this weekend.
Yeah, and you can hear my review. I was on Good Things Utah yesterday. I was there and here at the same time, because I'm magic like that. But I have to tell you, it's. Everybody said, well, that's not my
haunted
whatever.
Mansion.
This is my Haunted Mansion.
Nice.
Well, originally I had it as a B+, And then as I was kind of writing my review,
Are you having a weather alert?
there's a thunderstorm warning.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I didn't really need that but
Yeah.
thank you. So I just really love
A-.
I love Lakeith.
Uh-huh.
He is he's the main character in this. I moved it up to an A-, and you're either gonna really, can you hear it?
I just heard the thunder.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm on almost the highest floor in this hotel. I don't think I'm walking back to the convention. I think I'm probably gonna have to take a lift.
Uber that one, yeah.
I literally had my umbrella in my bag, and then I took it out. I'm like, I don't need that. But anyway, so I gave it an A-. I'm going to write a proper review when I get home and put it up. I'll send it to you, and I'll put it on my website as well. It is scary. So everything that you think about the ride, think about the stories that inspired the ride, and then they're deep diving into those stories.
Nice.
And it's more scary than I think people are going to think it is because it's a Disney movie. They've given us a Haunted Mansion movie before.
It was scary in other ways.
Like it.
That's one that's on my list, so I'm glad to hear. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, do I see that before Barbie and Oppenheimer, or should I?
I would say
that out.
I
That's
would, because what I think is that you're going to watch Barbie and Oppenheimer, and you're going to have this expectation for Haunted Mansion, and so I think you do Haunted Mansion first, and then you do Barbieheimer, Barbie.
If you would have told me that I would think that Barbie is the better movie out of those two, I would have laughed at you until I saw them both, but here I am. I think
Oppenheimer is Nolan's best film to date.
It's good. It's not.
I liked it a lot,
but I'll watch it again. Maybe I was just having an off day, but
no, I think you just are set in your ways about Nolan.
I like Nolan. He's let me down the last couple of years, but I used to be a huge fanboy. So,
I mean, we all know Tracy's favorite Nolan film is Tenet. So,
100%.
The next time you see Babe, be like, hey, should we go see Tenet together and just watch his reaction?
He's going to punch me in the face.
No, he's not. He's going to start crying. Like, why do you hate me?
Like, well, I found out Tracy hates me today. That was news. Yes. No. All right. That's great. I'm giving it an A. And it's hard. I'm torn on it. I'm giving it an A because the story, the music, all of it's fantastic. But from and I think they did a great job with the cinematography and the filmmaking, but really it's a stage production that they filmed. And so I feel weird giving it an A, but I also don't care.
But they have tried to do that before, and it's been boring AF.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's some that it fell flat.
Yeah.
And this did not. So
it's an A for me.
It could have been like the film from the back of the balcony, like the proud parent filming the kid from the, and they do a good job. I mean, like you said, Jake, you're limited on the amount of shots you can get, but they pull off some great close-ups. There's some nice 2 shots, some reverse shots, but it is limited. But I'm with you. It's an A. The first time I saw it, I was absolutely blown away from it. Wanted to, like Val said, read more and Google more, learn more. And I mean, it's not as cinematic as it could be, but I think for what it is, for what it needed to be. Dang.
I'm worried for it's crazy.
Can I just go into the scary movie lighting?
Yeah.
Yeah, the lighting is really
comes across the back.
We started talking Haunted Mansion. There's thunder going off. The lighting got bad.
Did we just move into an A24 film, or what is a Blumhouse film? What's going on?
Their new A24 movie. I don't love horror films. I made myself watch it, and I gave it a B+.
Nice.
Wow.
I've heard good things about that one.
It
Don't
still
talk
scares me a little bit. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
It's an A. It's all A's.
Triple A rated. Hamilton. I'm not surprised. I would be shocked if we had on this particular one.
We get so much hate mail.
Well, yeah.
We'd get that one letter.
Dear Tracy.
It would probably be for me. You guys.
Jake's writing the hate letter to us.
There you go. Make sure you follow us in all the places we are on: Instagram, Threads, Twitter, or not Twitter, X, whatever it is now. Facebook.
Is it really
We're in
not
all the
Twitter
places.
anymore?
My app changed this morning. It now just says
did it?
app.
I haven't even looked.
Yeah.
At
And tune in next week to see if Val survives the haunted hotel.
Yep. And if you can, we would really love your support for the money that we're raising for American Cancer Society. That would be fantastic. Even $5 helps, makes a big difference. And we just appreciate your support listening to the show or watching the show. And until next time, we hope you stay safe, Val, out there in the middle of thunder and rain and everything
This is going to
else.
turn into the
It'll be
Hollywood Hotel
sunny
of
and
Terror.
90 in 10 more minutes. I don't know. That's kind of how it's been the whole time I've been here.
Hey, don't throw away your
Craziness.
shot, Val.
Yeah, she's not going to throw away her shot. All right.
I'm not going to.
Not going to. All right.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.